Søndag 22. september. Velkommen til en ny USA-spesial, den 6. i rekken. Og med meg har jeg Lars bak spakene, som i dag har introdusert meg for et nytt konsept, og det er et kamera som beveger seg fra venstre mot høyre, som jeg skal prøve å følge med i, og dette blir jeg fortalt er da sånn TV skal lages, for bildet skal være i bevegelse. Vi får se om dere oppfanger det. Jeg gjør som jeg blir fortalt. Vi har vært i messe i dag, og prøver å begynne søndagen med å lese i Bibelen. Fordi en dag i uka så må du kunne lese i den store bok. Det er alltid en unnskyldning til ikke å gjøre det, fordi det er nyheter og det er ting som fanger oppmerksomheten. Men det er en dag, tenker jeg, det må være en bra regel. At søndag formiddag før du går i messe, skal du lese Bibelen. Og det er alltid, det gir en opplevelse å slå opp og lese i den hellige bok. Fordi det er noe med menneskene i dag, de tror at ordet skal komme til dem. At vi er så vant til at vi får alt, at vi forventer at ja, men kirken må jo komme til meg med sitt budskap, men det er ikke sånn det fungerer. Det er vi som må oppsøke budskapet. Og så kan vi ta stilling til det, og vi kan krangle med det, motsi og komme med alle mulige innvendinger, men vi kan ikke sitte passivt, vi må gå ut og gjøre noe. Og fordi det jeg sier nå har nemlig veldig mye med Amerika å gjøre, fordi der er det en åndelig vekkelse på gang. 2 attentat på Trump har fått veldig mange amerikanere til å forstå at det er noe som heter ondskap, og det er noe som heter Guds hånd. Og den hviler over Trump, og han har begynt å si det selv. Jeg tror Gud passer på meg for at jeg skal redde Amerika. Ondskapen, den finnes på demokratenes side. De har ingen hemninger med å anklage Trump for å være skyld i sine egne attentat. Det er et ord dere må lære dere, og det er tautologi, altså en selvrefererende påstand, fordi de sier at ja, men Trump er en trussel mot demokratiet. Og hvis han sier, ja, men dere holder på å ødelegge Amerika, så svarer de demokratene, nei, det er du som er en trussel mot demokratiet, og derfor er det ikke så rart at noen prøver å drepe deg. Dette er første gang i Vestens historie, i hvert fall etter krigen, at et politisk parti og hele makta bak argumenterer og legitimerer politiske drap. For det er det de gjør. Det er en legitimering post festum, etter faktum, hvor skuddene har falt. Så sier de at det er Trump som er en trussel. Skal vi se første klipp? Lars.
Him, they have slandered him, they have created a caricature of him. In less than a decade, Donald Trump has gone from a billionaire celebrity, beloved by Democrats and the media, to a Republican these same people now referred to constantly as a threat to democracy because Donald Trump's politics and rhetoric did not align with this Democratic machine, and many on the left have done nothing but vilify him and even at times glorified violence against him. Take a look.
That man cannot see public office again. He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
The donor class can't just sit back on the sidelines and say, oh, well, don't worry, this will all work itself out. They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president? I want to clarify, I'm not an actor. I lie for a living. However, it's been a while. And maybe it's time.
How dare he say the things he does? Of course I want to punch him in the face.
Right.
Press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school, I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish.
And with this kind of inspiration, I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Can you imagine any conservative said anything similar about any Democrat? Now, even Trump's 2020 opponent once joked about killing the former president, you might recall, and it's not funny.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
Denne replikken selvfølgelig ikke noe Kamala finner på der og da, den er utstudert. Men det sier jo litt at hun som programvert klapper for den replikken, at en av dem skal ikke komme ut I livet fra den heisen. Og sånn har det vært med Kamala. Hun jo en historie for seg. Fordi alt ved henne innstudert, og likevel så klarer hun ikke gjøre noen opptredener. Hun har vel hatt 2-3 intervjuer siden hun ble nominert, og J.D. Vance og Trump har hatt 70. Og det sier jo litt om at de tør ikke vise henne fram, fordi hun sier så mye, hun kan si hva som helst. Dette ondskap. Demokratene vil stoppe Trump for enhver pris, og de har prøvd å skyte han 2 ganger. Og så kan du si, overdriver ikke jeg nå, fordi vi har jo ikke noe bevis. Nei, det nettopp det vi ikke har. Alt stengt ned. Vi får ikke vite noen ting, og det både han Thomas Matthew Crooks oppe I Bethel I Pennsylvania, som vi ikke vet nesten noen ting om. Og det I seg selv jo veldig mistenkelig. Så har vi da han Ryan Ralph fra nå I Florida på golfbanen forrige søndag. Og der det så mye materiale at det stinker to high heaven, som de sier på amerikansk. John Sullivan en veldig dyktig journalist. Han pleide å jobbe I The Hill, men nå har han sin egen avis som heter Just the News. Og han blir intervjuet sammen med Jim Jordan, og han forteller at Ralph ble flagget 4 ganger til Department of Homeland Security, og hver gang ble det avvist. Vær så god.
Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan. John, let's start with you in the news you have discovered today.
Yeah, listen, when Ryan Ruth came back from Ukraine after he was recruiting foreign fighters to go to Ukraine and possibly join the war there, he came back to the United States. The Customs Border Protection Agency stopped him as he was returning to Honolulu, Hawaii. And there he made several spontaneous comments that caused them to interview him more deeply. They learned that he was trying to recruit people in Afghanistan, in Syria. He had contacts with several foreign countries. They were very concerned about what he was telling them. He revealed who was funding his foreign exploits. He claimed a woman that he identified as his wife was funding these operations for him. They referred him to the Homeland Security Investigation Unit. That is basically the FBI, the Homeland Security Department, and HSI declined to further investigate him. This marks the 4th time between 2019 and this Sunday where federal agencies got a warning about Ryan Ruth. It started in 2019 with a warning to the FBI that he might be in possession of weapons as a convicted felon, a man who once had a weapon of mass destruction in his possession. Then in 2022 and 2023, an American nurse twice contacted federal law enforcement saying she was very concerned about the behavior she saw of Ryan Ruth when he was in Ukraine. She was there volunteering, trying to help people who were wounded in the war. war. And then the Custom Borders Protection, the Homeland's own agency, flags this man, saying he needs to be further investigated based on what he told us at the entry border back into the United States. And the federal agencies, a fourth time, declined to really look at this guy and maybe put him on a different course than what we saw on Sunday when he was trying to shoot President Trump.
Jim Jordan, let's talk about not only...
Ja, vi kommer tilbake til dette segmentet. Det så mye materiale, og jeg tror helt sikkert at dette kommer til å komme for en dag. Hvor fikk han penger fra? For det snakk om store beløp. Han flyttet til Hawaii, og det å fly fra Hawaii og til Europa, det koster flere $1000. Og han bodde til sammen 8 måneder i Ukraina. Han bodde i en militærforlegning. Han hadde samtaler med ukrainsk etterretning og militære. Og dette jo en amerikaner som prøver å skaffe krigere fra Afghanistan og Syria for å slåss mot russerne. Der kommer det opp flagg på flagg på flagg hos amerikanerne. Og de har selvfølgelig visst hvem han og hva han drev med, og de lot han holde på, og de lot han dra ned til Florida for å skyte Trump. Det det inntrykket, eller den mistanken man får av av å vite denne kunnskapen om Ralph. Og så det, fordi ingenting av dette kommer jo frem i norske medier. De legger lokk på alt. De akkurat som FBI i USA. De sier, vi holder på å grave, vi etterforsker, og så hører du ingenting. Men så det ekte journalister i USA, i motsetning til i Norge. Og det 2 av dem. Skal vi stifte bekjentskap med nå, det Susan Crabtree som jobber for Real Clear Politics. Og så det min favoritt, Julie Kelly, som har hun spesialist på 6. januar. Og de lar ingen sten forbli usnudd, og med tålmodighet og grundighet så kommer de på sporet og begynner å nøste, og så dukker den ene mer fantastiske historien opp etter den andre. Vær så god. Crabtree.
Julie Kelly, she is with Real Clear Investigations and doing an amazing job, and Susan Crabtree, Real Clear Politics, White House and national political correspondent. Welcome to you both. And I mean, you are doing amazing work, but it's kind of crazy. Sometimes I feel like you guys should have more competition. I mean, well, let's worry about the fake news later. I'm going to start with you, Susan, if you don't mind. We only had one press conference. It was on Monday from the authorities about what happened in Florida, and the coverage has just diminished, and nobody's even talking about it anymore. Should that concern us?
Absolutely. That press conference, if you would like to call it a press conference, it was really just a statements that they were making. They took a few questions afterwards, that's a key sign when they don't allow an ongoing discussion with reporters. They're limiting us, and they didn't tell me personally. That's something they've done to me before. Not tell me there's a press conference in D.C. so we could have somebody there with educated questions. So yeah, I don't have any faith, as J.D. Vance said, I don't have any faith that we're going to get the right information out of the FBI and the Secret Service. Unfortunately, they've been engaged in a deception with me personally, deceptive statements dating back 12 years.
And do you buy, I have heard that now Donald Trump has sitting presidential level protection, which I don't think it can be technically true. But have you heard that, and do you think it's true?
I asked them specifically about this. They gave me their response. I put it out on Twitter. You can see exactly what they told me. As you know, they say that they had it in place before this incident at the golf course in Florida, but they were doing this OTR. They were calling it an OTR. It was an excuse. Basically, they had not swept the perimeter. They did not have a drone in the air that day with thermotechnology that can detect a human being in the woods. So that's what they would have done they wouldn't have had the drone because they never have had drones. There's resistance, but they would have swept with canines and with Secret Service agents the outer perimeter, and they would have found him if it was a sitting president. So that is not true. They're treating this as an OTR after the Iranian threat that we know in granular detail because we know about the proffer between this Asif Marchant and the FBI, the interrogation that Senator Grassley released 2 weeks ago. We know there is a tangible Iranian threat against the president, former President Trump. And so why aren't you sweeping the perimeter of a golf course? And it's not an excuse to say it was an OTR, it was an unplanned event, it was off the schedule. We're talking about a heightened threat here. They needed to have drones in the air, and they needed to sweep that perimeter. I'm told they borrowed a drone from local law enforcement after the incident.
Oh, wow. And Gates says there are 5 plots, 5 assassination teams. That's news to a lot of us, and the Secret Service doesn't seem to be on that footing. Julie, can you tell us the significance of what Kamala Harris said regarding January 6th this week, and what did she say?
So, Greg, I want to really commend the National Association of Black Journalists. They are the first reporters in more than 3 years to confront Kamala Harris about her presence at the DNC headquarters on January 6th, where we were told a lethal, viable pipe bomb had been planted the night before. Her Secret Service detail is on video at 11:25 a.m. that morning as her motorcade drives into the underground garage in front of the DNC. She is never accounted for her whereabouts or why she left the Capitol at 11:20 a.m. and went to the DNC headquarters. So the reporter was asking her basically about trusting the Secret Service in light of these attempted assassination efforts against Donald Trump. And when he said, your motorcade, your Secret Service detail came within 20 feet of this pipe bomb, she interrupted him immediately to say that she was inside the building. So why was she pivoting away from the fact that, yes, her Secret Service detail, and we could see the SUVs with her inside of it, at least one of them, driving within, a few yards of this pipe bomb that the FBI says was planted the night before. Of course, Greg, as you know, the FBI has never apprehended or identified the alleged pipe bomber. I have a lot of reporting at Real Clear and at my Substack Declassified that starts to demonstrate with surveillance video and other testimony that this looks more and more like an inside job, just like January 6th was, and that this device probably was planted by someone connected to the government or even law enforcement. Because again, how did the Secret Service, Metro Police, Capitol Police, and just passersby miss this device planted outside the night before, sitting there for 17 hours until we were told a Capitol Police plainclothes officer discovered it at about 1:07 that day?
It's astounding, totally astounding. And speaking of government connections, the person who planted the bomb, who knows government connections, government employee. What about this Ryan Ruth guy? I've seen some compelling things. Granted, it's on Twitter. Granted, it's not the New York Times, but the best information seems to be coming from social media these days. Susan, what do you make of Ryan Routh, whatever, his travels, his stint in Ukraine, the money, the lobbying of Congress, his connections and communications with mainstream reporters from, the New York Times? This is not your. I just don't know what to make of him. What do you make of it?
Oh, I think that there are a lot of questions being raised, and at this, Thomas Crooks, the FBI could have shut down those questions about him and said, when we were trying to get information about what was in the encrypted apps overseas, encrypted apps, they said they looked at him and they didn't find anything. Well, why don't you share that information with us? There was no, his social media was either scrubbed or non-existent. Ryan Ruth is just overflowing with information. And I am deeply concerned. I noted in my first story about this on Monday after the second assassination attempt that he had this discussion with the New York Times, and he was trying to recruit people from Afghanistan, fighters, to go into Ukraine. And one of them was in Iran. one of these fighters, and that's how the New York Times reporter got a hold of Ruth in the first place. There is a statement from him on either Facebook or Twitter, a social media outlet, that says he's apologizing to Iran and telling them for his support for Donald Trump in 2016. And he's saying to them, you can go ahead and assassinate Donald Trump. Do you think that the Iranians aren't monitoring social media constantly? I have nothing else but that to go on, but it's curious. I will put it that way. And then when you look at the proffer that Senator Grassley put out 2 weeks ago, and you know in granular detail how they were plotting to assassinate Trump, whether they were going to use a pistol or a rifle, whether it was going to be inside or at a rally or outside. It is deeply concerning, and I happen to know, and I will break this on your news with Newsmax with you, that there is a heightened Iranian threat right now that has been issued by intelligence agencies, and I think that the Secret Service is trying to respond. This is just in the last 48 hours.
Well, let's kick that up from curious to extremely double suspicious, if you don't mind. You guys are fantastic. Julie Kelly, go to juliekelly.substack.com. Susan Crabtree, all of your material at Susan Crabtree. You can start there. Thank you very much for everything you're doing. To be continued, and we'll be right back. President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, July 13th. Many of us believe that God saved his life. Donald Trump believes that. He's been speaking about it more and more. Yes, he did speak about it in the immediate aftermath at the convention, but it came up yesterday at his big rally at Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, and just really a few moments ago with our own Carl Higbie, who sat down with the president at Trump Tower.
Somebody said the other day, but a lot of people say it, that it was really God that saved me because he wants me to save the country. The country is going so bad with everything that's happening. Think of it. If I were president, none of it would have happened, Carl. None of it. No inflation, no war in the Middle East. They would not have attacked Israel. They weren't in a position to do it. They never would have been. And Russia would not have attacked Ukraine. Think of the different world we'd have right now.
All right, well, there.
Ja, det morsomt fordi norske medier og den norske meningseliten, de synes jo at Trump nærmest blasfemiker når han tar ordet Gud i sin munn. Men selv tror de ikke på Gud. Så det vi kan ikke akkurat, hva skal vi tro om et slikt utsagn? Altså, de prøver å overbevise oss om sine gode credentials, at de har gode akkreditiver, mens de i virkeligheten antikristelige. Og det, når du gjennomskuer det, så blir jo dette et veldig råttent spill. Vi har kvaliteten på de som står opp mot dette her, de forteller oss hva vi har med å gjøre. Og en av de som jeg pleide å følge godt på da han var på YouTube, han heter Erik med Texas, og han har da begynt sitt eget show, som jeg ikke rekker å følge med på dessverre, men han dukker opp nå på Greg Kelly, og han snakker om den åndelige dimensjonen ved det som skjer i USA. Det ikke til å tro, men de sier at det 40 millioner evangeliske kristne som ikke stemmer ved valget, pleier å stemme, og hvis disse stiller opp, så vinner Trump. Det ganske utrolig, og derfor det jo man prøver å vise hvor mye som står på spill. Erik med Texas, vær så god.
All right, well, there he said that his friends have mentioned it, but he's also noticed it himself. He seems to be awakening, possibly Eric Metaxas, who knows God very, very well. He's the host of the Eric Metaxas radio show host. It has been so helpful to so many of us. Welcome back, Eric. Look, I know you're really deathly concerned about Kamala Harris. We all are, but have you noticed anything different about Donald Trump and the way he's talking about God lately?
There's no doubt about it. Listen, if somebody tries to put a bullet in your head actually, and they draw blood, I don't think there's any way you continue as you were up to that point, because you know that somehow you didn't deserve to survive it, but you survived it. I just think that, most people would be changed by that. Donald Trump is absolutely changed by that. And I think that, when you're as successful as he is, on some level, you need humbling. Now, I don't say that lightly, but I mean, he's been so successful. This just stopped him dead and made him realize, I shouldn't be here. I'm here. Maybe God has a purpose for me. It happened to Reagan. Most people, if you saw the Reagan film, fantastic film, you realize that when somebody puts a bullet in you or near you, it's going to change you. It's going to make you think about life and death, and it's going to make you think about God. And that's a wonderful thing.
It really is. I wonder how it's going to, how we'll see it manifest itself when he's president, that kind of thing. All right. Are you a little bit puzzled that the race is as close as it is, or maybe it's not as close, but tell us more about that.
Well, look, anybody with common sense, which is unfortunately not everybody, but anyone with common sense understands that Kamala Harris is a train wreck like we have never seen on every level. First of all, she is the first genuinely communist Marxist candidate who's ever run for president. Now, she's not advertising herself that way, but when you listen to her speak, if you understand what communism is, what big government is, she makes FDR look like Reagan. She is absolutely unaware of what the founders gave us, or if she's aware of it, if she's aware of it, she doesn't like it. She would prefer that, we be governed the way they're governed in other countries, where you don't get much of a say, where the state gets to shut you down. If they don't like what you're saying, they shut you down. We've never seen anything like it. So the idea that half the country is saying, oh, yeah, I'll vote for Kamala Harris, is hard to swallow. It's hard to believe. But I think we need to act like we're 20 points behind. We need to believe the stupid polls, whether they're true or not. But it doesn't make much sense. And Greg, let's be honest. If we had anything like an actual media and journalists in America, there is zero chance that she would ever get near the White House. But we have, the journalists and the media are carrying her water. We've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it, and it should scare people.
Right. There was a point when running for president, you had to impress people with your intelligence, with your eloquence, with your resume, something. They are high-fiving each other at the campaign when she gets through an event and there's been no major incident. That's considered a major win. They won the day. We are just so thoroughly corrupted backwards right now as a country. It is a scary place. All right.
This morning on Twitter, I said that in Trump and Vance, you have candidates doing everything they can to get their message and thinking out to American voters. Everything they can. In Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they're doing everything they can to hide what they actually believe from American voters, because they know your average American voter, if they really understood the radical nature of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they would never, ever vote for them. So their job is to hide it until we vote in November.
So for those of us, your book is available. Let's put it up on the screen there. Religionless Christianity, God's Answer to Evil. All right, I'm way behind in my reading, but Eric, give us the upshot. Give us the 30 seconds on this book, if you don't mind.
The other day, somebody asked me, I say in this book, Religionless Christianity, we're in an existential crisis, the third in our history. So somebody asked me the other day in an interview, what's your biggest fear of a Kamala presidency? And that's like saying, what's your biggest fear if you drove a car 120 miles an hour into a brick wall? What's your biggest fear? You wouldn't exist. What would your biggest fear be if George Washington loses to the British? What's your biggest fear? It's over. What's your biggest fear if Hitler wins World War II? It's over. So the reason I wrote this book is to say to people who claim to be Christian, you need to live out your faith. You need to understand you're supposed to fight against evil. What we're facing now is clearly evil. It's not democratic policies. This is not Michael Dukakis we're running against. It's not Walter Mondale. It's an existential crisis. We have atheist Marxists wanting to destroy the nation. And if you're any kind of a person of faith, you have no excuse. So in the book Religionless Christianity, I make a case of how it is that people of faith can get knocked sideways into kind of going along with the program, which is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. You know, that's about it.
All right, Eric, very, very powerful. Hey, very, very quickly, I'm sorry, but, and I agree with you, this is all happening. I get a little uncomfortable when the left says that Donald Trump is a threat to the Constitution. You know what I mean? It really mean, like, they are justifying something unthinkable. And maybe we're seeing that play out.
Of course.
I every now and then I'm like, our side too, even though, like, I get a little bit, do you know what I mean? Like, it's existential. I don't even want to contemplate her winning, but we got to do the best we can on Election Day and every day before that. And social
It's
media.
everything. It's for all the marbles, Greg. This is for all the marbles. And if anybody doesn't get that, they're going to get it. When this election is over, you will see. This is for everything. We've never seen anything like it.
All right. Yeah, Eric, what a wild time. I'm optimistic somehow. I really am. And I think more people are with Trump than we see in those polls. Eric Metaxas, metaxastalks.com, metaxastalks.com. Right, sir? Is that it?
Well, it's just ericmetaxas.com is probably better, but thank you. ericmetaxas.com. Everything is there. I appreciate it.
All right, ericmetaxas.com. That's probably a good domain for you, too, if you want it. We'll be right back.
Dette uttrykket 'to be humbled', altså å bli ydmyk av det som skjer med deg, det er, og så blir du reddet, og så forstår du at det er noen som beskytter deg, det er en fin formulering fra Bibelen selvsagt. Det er jo Jobbs bok, å bli humbled. Av å være gudfryktig, som det heter. Disse kommunistene, for det er det de er kommunister, de mener hele tiden, de setter seg i Guds sted, og de spør, hvem ga deg rett til å stille spørsmål ved vårt demokrati? For det er deres demokrati, og det er akkurat samme mentalitet vi ser i Norge med disse desinformasjonskontrollene som de har, og programmene som de setter i gang, som nå involverer de store mediene og nye institutter, statlige penger, et korporativt samfunn. Douglas Murray sa det veldig fint for en tid tilbake på en video. Han sa, «Great men will save the West». Disse som dere har stiftet bekjentskap med her, han heter John Solomon og ikke John Sullivan, Greg Kelly, Julie Kelly og Susan Crabtree og nå Erik Metaxas. Dette er individer som i kraft av deres overbevisning og innsats mobiliserer millioner av mennesker. Og det har forandret offentligheten i USA. Og jeg trekker frem disse her for at dere skal forstå at det er det samme prosjektet vi holder på med her i Norge i Dokument. Det er å vise at dette er faktisk et valg mellom ondskap og de gode kreftene. Og da har vi plikt til å appellere til dere og si, her står det så mye på spill, hjelp oss å redde Norge og vår fremtid. Takk for i dag. Det er Dokument. Hvis dere vil vipse oss noe, så er dere velkommen til det. Takk for nå. Ja, så var det Elon Musk. Takk, Lars. Fordi det var en liten snutt på slutten her. Elon Musk er verdens rikeste mann. Han er god for $251 milliarder, et ufattelig beløp. Og så er han på vår side. Og det gir jo grunn til optimisme og forteller oss at det er et lite under. Vær så god, Lars.
All right. He's our hero, Elon Musk. This man has done so much for freedom of speech and is helping President Trump every step of the way in this election. How much is he worth, by the way? It's kind of cool to have, wow, $251 billion. Well, he took a chunk of that money and he bought Twitter turn it into X and an awesome forum for free speech and the truth about this transgender mess and Kamala Harris and whatever the hell else he wants to say. Here's a sample. Atheism left an empty space. Secular religion took its place, but left the people in despair. Childless hedonism sans care. Maybe religion's not so bad to keep you from being sad. How about that? I love it. Let's see another one.
Det var slutten. Så da sier jeg takk for I dag. Ja, takk for I dag og god søndag. Nå så jeg riktig kamera. Takk for nå. Takk til Lars. Hei.